My beloved child, do not scroll away from this moment. Listen carefully to me now, because what is happening around your life is not ordinary. You may think this is just another video, another message passing through your screen like countless others before it. But deep within your spirit, something already told you to stop here. Something inside you felt pulled toward these words, even before you understood why. That feeling was not random. I guided you here. Before this message ends, you will begin to understand why your breakthrough has been delayed, why your spirit has felt heavy, and why the battles surrounding your life have intensified recently. Because there is something happening in the unseen realm that you have not fully recognized yet. And today, I need you to hear me clearly. Do not let distraction pull you away. Stay with me, for this message may be the very confirmation you have been praying for in silence. My child, I know the weariness hidden behind your smile. I know the thoughts that keep you awake after everyone else has fallen asleep. I have seen the moments when you stared into the darkness, wondering if things would ever truly change for you. You tried to stay strong, you tried to keep believing, but lately something inside you has become tired. Not physically tired alone, but soul tired. You have carried burdens nobody fully understands. You kept showing up for others while secretly feeling empty yourself. You kept encouraging people while your own heart quietly begged for reassurance. You kept praying even during the seasons when heaven felt silent. And there were moments when you wondered, God, are you still listening to me? My beloved, I heard every whisper. I heard every silent cry you buried behind closed doors. I saw every tear you wiped away before anyone noticed. You were never abandoned, not for 1 second, even during the days when everything around you seemed delayed, when doors kept closing, when finances became unstable, when relationships grew confusing, when opportunities slipped through your fingers at the last moment. I was still there, closer than you realized. There were battles surrounding your life that you could not see with human eyes. There were moments when darkness tried to convince you that your story was ending in failure. The enemy wanted exhaustion to become your identity. It wanted disappointment to become your expectation. But I refused to let your spirit completely break. That is why you are still here. That is why, despite everything you endured, some small part of you still kept hoping. My child, listen closely now, because this next part matters deeply. The delay you have experienced was never proof that I forgot you. And the struggle surrounding your life is not as simple as you think. You believed you were only fighting financial pressure, emotional exhaustion, closed doors, and repeated disappointments. But beneath those visible battles, something deeper has been unfolding quietly. There has been a war over your confidence, a war over your identity, a war over your future. Because the enemy understands something about you that even you have not fully understood yet. You carry purpose, you carry influence, you carry a calling that threatens the darkness surrounding your bloodline. That is why the attacks intensified whenever you came close to breakthrough. Have you noticed the pattern? Every time you began moving forward, something suddenly happened. Every time hope started rising again, confusion appeared. Every time you came near peace, another storm emerged. You thought it was coincidence, but it was resistance. The enemy does not waste energy attacking empty destinies. And my child, you are not empty. You were chosen long before you were born, just as it is written in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Read those words again within your spirit. A future, not destruction, not permanent delay, not endless suffering, a future filled with purpose. But before you can step into that future, I must first awaken you to what has been happening around your life. Because many of my children stay trapped in cycles simply because they never recognize the spiritual warfare surrounding them. They blame themselves for everything. They think they are weak. They think they are cursed. They think they are forgotten. Meanwhile, heaven has been fighting battles they cannot even see. My beloved child, do not condemn yourself anymore. You have spent too much time believing the lie that you were the problem. You questioned your worth after every disappointment. You questioned your value after every rejection. You questioned your future after every delay. And slowly, without realizing it, the enemy began planting false labels inside your heart. Not good enough, too broken, too late, unworthy, forgotten. But those labels never came from me. I never called you a failure. I never called you abandoned. I never called you weak. I called you mine, and that truth terrifies darkness. Because the moment you fully remember who you are, chains begin breaking. The moment you recognize your authority, fear starts losing power over your life. The moment you stop agreeing with hopelessness, heaven begins opening doors the enemy tried to seal shut. That is why this moment matters. This is not just encouragement, this is awakening. My child, there are things I protected you from that you still do not know about. There were people who smiled in front of you while secretly carrying jealousy in their hearts. There were paths you begged me to open that would have destroyed your peace later. There were relationships you cried over losing that were actually assignments sent to drain your spirit. And when I closed those doors, you thought I was rejecting you, but I was protecting your future. One day you will look back and realize that some unanswered prayers were actually acts of mercy. I know waiting has exhausted you. I know uncertainty has worn your heart down. I know you became tired of starting over. But hear me carefully now. Your story is not ending in this season of confusion. Something is shifting already, quietly, deeply, powerfully. Even now, while you listen to these words, heaven is rearranging things you cannot yet see. Battles are being fought beyond your understanding. Chains are weakening. Doors are preparing to open. The very areas where you experienced the greatest resistance are becoming the places where breakthrough will suddenly appear. But you must not lose heart now. Do not retreat into hopelessness when your breakthrough is closer than you realize. Do not allow fear to convince you that nothing will ever change. Because the next season of your life will not look like the last one. The delay has been long, but it was not meaningless. The silence has been painful, but it was not abandonment. The warfare has been exhausting, but it will not defeat you. And soon, my child, very soon, you will begin to understand why everything had to unfold the way it did. But before that breakthrough arrives, there is one hidden truth about your life that you must finally recognize. Because what has been resisting your blessing may go deeper than you ever imagined. And in the next part, I will reveal why the weariness surrounding your spirit has felt so unusually heavy lately. My beloved child, I know you are tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. Not the kind of exhaustion people notice when they look at you. This weariness lives deeper. It settled quietly inside your spirit after too many disappointments, too many delays, too many moments where you tried your hardest only to watch things still fall apart. And the hardest part is this. Most people around you have no idea how heavy your inner world has become. They see you smiling, they see you functioning, they see you continuing forward, but they do not see the silent battles happening within your mind every single day. They do not hear the conversations you have with yourself late at night. They do not know how many times you fought tears in places where nobody could comfort you. They do not know how close you came to giving up. But I know. I saw the nights when your chest felt heavy with anxiety while everyone else slept peacefully. I saw the moments when fear wrapped around your thoughts and whispered that nothing would ever change. I saw the disappointment in your eyes every time another door closed, every time another opportunity slipped away, every time you gathered the strength to believe again, only to feel hurt once more. My child, you have been carrying emotional weight for much longer than you admit. You became so used to surviving that you forgot what peace feels like. You learned how to function while hurting. You learned how to encourage others while secretly feeling empty yourself. You learned how to keep moving even when your soul was exhausted. But I never intended for you to live burdened like this. I never created you merely to survive. I created you to live in peace, in confidence, in closeness with me. Yet somewhere along the journey, disappointment started changing the way you saw yourself. You began questioning your worth because of what failed. You began measuring your value by what you lacked. You began believing that delay meant rejection, and slowly, quietly, weariness entered your spirit. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. The enemy understands that exhausted people stop expecting miracles. That is why the warfare surrounding your life has focused so heavily on draining your hope. Because once hope weakens, faith becomes harder to hold. That is why you started feeling emotionally numb at times. You still prayed, but without expectation. You still worshiped, but with hidden disappointment buried underneath. You still believed in me, but part of your heart quietly feared that maybe breakthrough happens for other people more than for you. My beloved, do not be ashamed of those feelings. I understand your humanity. I understand how repeated battles can wear down even the strongest hearts. Remember Elijah. After witnessing miracles, after calling down fire from heaven, after seeing my power move mightily, he still reached a moment where exhaustion became so overwhelming that he wanted to run away and hide. Even great faith can become weary after prolonged warfare. That is why I am speaking gently to you now. Because your exhaustion does not make you weak. It reveals how long you have been fighting, and you have been fighting far longer than people realize. There were seasons when you smiled publicly while privately questioning everything. Seasons when you encouraged everyone around you, while your own spirit quietly cried for help. Seasons when you felt forgotten because your prayers seemed suspended between heaven and earth. You wondered, why does it feel like I keep getting close only to fall backward again? Why does peace never seem to stay long? Why does breakthrough always feel almost within reach, but never fully arrive? My child, the reason this battle has felt so intense is because your destiny carries weight. Darkness fights hardest against the people who are closest to transformation. That is why your attacks became heavier right before moments of potential breakthrough. The enemy wanted you emotionally exhausted before your season changed. Because tired people stop believing they deserve better. Tired people settle. Tired people stop dreaming. Tired people stop expecting heaven to move. But hear me now. I did not bring you this far to abandon you in the middle of the process. Even during your weakest moments, I remained beside you. When your faith became fragile, I held on to you. When your prayers became quiet, I still listened. When you questioned your future, I still protected your destiny. My beloved child, there were days you survived only because my hand covered you, even when you could not feel it. You thought you were holding yourself together alone, but heaven was carrying you. That is why you did not completely break. That is why, despite everything, some small light inside you refused to die. Because I placed it there, and darkness could not extinguish what I planted. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Do you understand what that means? It means your brokenness did not push me away. It drew me closer. I never despised your tears. I never grew impatient with your exhaustion. I never became disappointed in your struggle. In fact, some of the moments you felt weakest were the moments I held you closest. But the enemy kept trying to distort your perspective. It whispered, "You are too damaged now. You have waited too long. You will never recover. Nothing will change." And after hearing those lies repeatedly, part of your spirit started believing them. That is why your confidence became fragile. That is why fear entered your decisions. That is why hesitation started controlling opportunities I wanted you to walk into. Weariness does not only affect emotions, it changes vision. It makes future blessings feel impossible. It convinces people to prepare for disappointment before hope. And my child, you have lived too long expecting pain before peace, but I am beginning to shift something within you now. Slowly, gently, deeply, I am restoring your ability to hope again. Not false hope rooted in human circumstances, but deep spiritual confidence rooted in my promises. Because the next season of your life cannot be entered carrying the same hopelessness that wounded you in the last season. I need you to hear this clearly. Your exhaustion is not your identity. Your delay is not your destiny. Your disappointment is not your final chapter. There is restoration coming for your spirit. There is healing coming for your mind. There is peace returning to the areas where fear has ruled too long. But before that restoration fully arrives, you must understand something important. The enemy was never only trying to steal money from you, or opportunities, or relationships. It was trying to steal your expectation. Because expectation is dangerous to darkness. People who expect breakthrough keep moving forward. People who expect restoration keep praying. People who expect miracles refuse to surrender. That is why heaven is speaking to your weary spirit now, to awaken what exhaustion tried to bury, to breathe life back into your hope, to remind you that your waiting season has not been meaningless. My child, you are closer to breakthrough than you realize. Even if your emotions cannot fully feel it yet, even if your circumstances have not visibly changed yet, even if the silence has lasted longer than you expected, something has already started shifting, quietly, spiritually, powerfully. And soon, very soon, you will begin seeing evidence that the delay surrounding your life was never permanent. But first, you must understand why your miracle felt suspended for so long, because what has been happening behind the scenes is far deeper than simple bad luck or unfortunate timing. And in the next part, I will reveal the hidden reason your breakthrough was delayed, but never denied. My beloved child, listen to me carefully now. The miracle you have been praying for was never destroyed. It was never forgotten, and it was never denied. I know there were moments when it felt impossible to believe that anymore. After waiting so long, after crying so many tears, after watching doors remain closed month after month, part of your heart started preparing itself for disappointment instead of breakthrough. You stopped speaking about your dreams the way you once did. You stopped expecting good news with the same excitement. You stopped imagining a future larger than your current pain. Not because you stopped loving me, but because weariness slowly convinced you that maybe your season would never change. My child, that lie has weighed heavily upon your spirit for too long. And today, I need to break it, because what you called delay, heaven called preparation. What you thought was rejection was actually protection, and what looked like silence was a hidden battle unfolding beyond your sight. You believed nothing was happening because you could not see movement with your physical eyes. But some of the greatest works I do happen invisibly before they ever become visible. Seeds grow underground long before fruit appears above the surface, and your breakthrough has been growing beneath the surface far longer than you realize. Listen closely now. This next truth is important. There were moments when your miracle came closer than you understood, but your spirit was not yet ready to carry the weight of what you were asking for. I know that may be difficult to hear, because you believed all you needed was immediate relief. Immediate answers, immediate breakthrough, but I see beyond temporary comfort. I see your future, I see the full picture, and if I had opened certain doors too early, the blessing itself would have crushed the unhealed version of you. There were areas of fear still controlling your decisions, areas of insecurity still shaping your identity, areas of emotional exhaustion still weakening your discernment. And if certain opportunities had arrived too quickly, you would have entered them carrying the same wounds that almost destroyed your peace before. So I slowed things down, not to punish you, not to frustrate you, but to protect the destiny attached to your life. My child, many people pray for blessing while remaining emotionally unprepared for stewardship. Many ask for increase while still carrying the mindset of fear. Many ask me to elevate them while secretly believing they are unworthy to stand where I am leading them. But I love you too deeply to give you something that would destroy you later. That is why your process has been slower than you expected. Because I was healing your foundation while you focused only on the doors. I was strengthening your spirit while you focused only on the outcome. I was preparing your character while you focused only on the breakthrough. And one day, you will thank me for every closed door that protected your future from premature success. My beloved child, hear me now. Delay is painful, I know that. Waiting can feel unbearable when your heart is exhausted, especially when you watch other people move ahead while you remain stuck in uncertainty. You wondered why their prayers seemed answered quickly while your own breakthrough remained suspended. You wondered if maybe I favored others more than you, but that was never true. Every person carries a different assignment. Every destiny carries a different weight, and the greater the calling, the deeper the preparation often becomes. You are not behind. You are being formed. You are being refined. You are being prepared for something larger than your present understanding. Habakkuk 2:3 says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Do you understand what that means? It means heaven already established an appointed time for your breakthrough. Not a random time, not a forgotten time, an appointed time. And what heaven appoints, darkness cannot permanently stop. The enemy tried to convince you that delay meant defeat, but delay and denial are not the same thing. A door delayed is not necessarily a door closed. A promise delayed is not necessarily a promise canceled. And your miracle, my child, still carries my hand upon it, even now, especially now. There were unseen battles taking place around your life while you thought nothing was happening. Battles over your confidence, battles over your peace, battles over your willingness to continue believing, because the enemy understood something dangerous about your future. If you ever fully stepped into your purpose, healed, confident, and spiritually awakened, you would become a threat to every cycle of fear attached to your bloodline. That is why discouragement surrounded you so heavily. That is why hopelessness attacked your mind repeatedly. That is why exhaustion became one of the enemy's greatest weapons against you. Not because you were weak, but because your future carries impact. The enemy does not fear people who quit. It fears people who keep believing after prolonged warfare. And my child, despite everything, you are still here listening to my voice. That means heaven has not finished with your story. Do not overlook how significant that is. You survived seasons that should have emotionally destroyed you. You walked through disappointments that could have hardened your heart permanently. You carried grief that almost silenced your hope completely. Yet some part of your spirit kept reaching toward me, even when your faith felt fragile, even when your prayers became quiet, even when your emotions struggled to trust. You still remained near me, and I honor that more than you realize. Because some of the strongest faith is not loud faith. Sometimes the strongest faith is simply refusing to walk away during the silence. My beloved child, there were nights heaven watched you cry while still whispering prayers through tears. There were mornings you forced yourself to keep moving, even while internally exhausted. There were moments you almost surrendered emotionally, but something inside you still chose to hold on one more day. That something was not weakness, it was grace holding you together. And now, slowly, the season is beginning to shift. Not because you became perfect, not because you suddenly earned breakthrough, but because the appointed time is drawing closer. You may not fully see it yet, but things are already moving behind the scenes. Conversations are shifting, doors are aligning, people are being repositioned, battles are being fought in places your eyes cannot reach, and the breakthrough you thought disappeared is quietly approaching. But before it fully manifests, there is another truth you must understand. Because part of the warfare surrounding your life did not begin with you alone. There are deeper spiritual patterns attached to your bloodline. Patterns you inherited without even realizing it. And until you recognize them, you will continue blaming yourself for battles that were larger than your own mistakes. My child, what I am about to reveal next will explain why certain cycles kept repeating throughout your life. And once you understand it, you will never see your struggles the same way again. My beloved child, there is something I need you to understand now that will change the way you see your entire journey. The struggle surrounding your life has never been only physical. It has never been only financial. It has never been only emotional. What you have been experiencing is deeper than circumstances alone. There has been an invisible battle unfolding around your destiny, a battle your physical eyes could not fully see. That is why certain problems in your life felt strangely repetitive. That is why some battles kept returning even after you thought you had overcome them. That is why peace sometimes seemed close, only to suddenly disappear again. You blamed yourself for many of these things. You thought perhaps you lacked wisdom. Perhaps you lacked strength. Perhaps you lacked discipline. But my child, many times you were fighting forces far deeper than you realized. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers of this dark world." Hear those words carefully. Your greatest battle was never truly against people, not against those who betrayed you, not against those who rejected you, not even against the circumstances themselves. There were unseen forces attempting to weaken your confidence, drain your peace, and delay your purpose. That is why some seasons felt unusually heavy. You kept trying to move forward, yet something invisible seemed to push back against every step. You prayed, you worked hard, you stayed faithful, yet progress still felt painfully slow. And after a while, confusion entered your spirit. You began asking yourself, why does everything feel harder for me? Why do I keep hitting invisible walls? Why does breakthrough always seem delayed? My beloved child, the enemy's goal was never simply to make you struggle. Its deeper goal was to convince you that your struggle defined you. Because once a person begins identifying with defeat, they stop resisting darkness. That is why hopelessness became one of the greatest attacks against your mind. The enemy wanted exhaustion to become your personality. It wanted delay to become your expectation. It wanted fear to become your identity. And slowly, without realizing it, you began carrying emotional chains you were never meant to wear. You became afraid to hope too much, afraid to dream too big, afraid to believe that life could genuinely improve. Not because you lacked faith, but because repeated battles trained your nervous system to prepare for disappointment. My child, I saw every silent wound forming inside you. I saw how rejection changed the way you viewed yourself. I saw how repeated setbacks weakened your confidence. I saw how betrayal made trusting people feel dangerous. And I also saw the hidden spiritual pressure behind those wounds. Because there are moments when darkness studies generational weaknesses within a bloodline, patterns, cycles, open emotional wounds passed from one generation to another. Fear, scarcity, addiction, shame, broken identity, hopelessness. These things often move quietly through families for years until someone finally rises up, spiritually awakened enough to break the cycle. And my child, that someone may be you. That is why your warfare intensified. Because the enemy fears awakened people. It fears people who begin recognizing the difference between temporary struggle and spiritual attack. It fears people who stop agreeing with hopelessness. It fears people who finally remember their authority. You thought you were merely trying to survive another difficult season, but heaven has been preparing a cycle breaker. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. There were moments when you felt completely alone emotionally. moments when nobody truly understood what was happening inside your mind. You carried invisible heaviness that words could barely explain. Sometimes you even felt guilty for being tired because externally your life may not have looked completely broken, but internally you felt drained, constantly alert, constantly worried, constantly emotionally exhausted. That heaviness was not always natural. Some battles are spiritual before they become emotional. The enemy often attacks the mind first because thoughts shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. That is why darkness worked so hard to fill your thoughts with fear, insecurity, and self-condemnation. Because if it could control how you saw yourself, it could weaken how you walked through life. You started doubting opportunities before even trying. You started assuming rejection before people responded. You started shrinking your dreams before they had the chance to grow. And eventually, survival replaced expectation. But I did not create you merely to survive. I created you to walk in authority. I created you to carry peace even during warfare. I created you to become light inside dark places. And despite everything that attacked your life, the enemy still failed to destroy the calling attached to your spirit. That is why you are still standing. That is why your heart still reaches toward me. That is why something inside you refuses to completely surrender, because my hand remained upon you the entire time, even when you could not feel it, even when confusion clouded your vision, even when delay exhausted your hope. My child, there were spiritual battles you survived without even realizing it. Situations that should have broken you emotionally, but somehow did not. Moments where destruction came near your life, yet something protected you. That something was not luck, it was my covering. You were preserved for a reason. And now the season is shifting, slowly, quietly, powerfully. Because once awareness enters your spirit, chains begin weakening. The enemy thrives in confusion. It thrives when people blame themselves for spiritual warfare they do not understand. It thrives when exhaustion convinces people they are powerless. But today I am opening your eyes gently, not to create fear, but to awaken authority. You do not need to tremble before darkness. You only need to recognize that my power is greater than every force fighting against your future. Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Notice what I said. The weapon may form, the battle may arise, the attack may come, but it shall not prosper. That means the warfare surrounding your life does not determine your ending. And my beloved child, your ending will not look like your current struggle. What you are walking through now is temporary. The fear is temporary. The confusion is temporary. The delay is temporary. But the purpose attached to your life is eternal. And heaven has not forgotten a single promise spoken over your destiny. Still, there is something deeper you must understand. Because not every battle surrounding your life began with your own choices. Some struggles were already present long before you were born. Patterns hidden within your bloodline. Cycles nobody talked about openly, but everyone quietly suffered under. And until you recognize these hidden roots, you will continue blaming yourself for battles connected to generations before you. My child, in the next part, I will reveal why certain struggles repeated throughout your family line, and why you were chosen to become the one who finally breaks free. My beloved child, there are wounds that do not appear on the skin. Wounds nobody notices when they look at you. Wounds hidden so deeply within your spirit that even you sometimes struggle to explain why certain moments hurt so much. And one of the deepest wounds you carry is connected to how you see yourself. Listen to me carefully now, because the enemy understood something long before you recognized it yourself. If it could not completely destroy your destiny, it would try to distort your identity. That is why so much warfare surrounded your confidence. That is why rejection followed you so heavily. That is why disappointment repeated itself in ways that slowly changed how you viewed your own worth. The enemy wanted you to wear false labels until you forgot who you truly were. And without realizing it, part of you started believing those labels. You began calling yourself things I never called you. Too broken, too late, unworthy, unwanted, not enough. My child, those words never came from me. I never named you according to your pain. I never identified you by your failures. I never defined you by your delays. But the enemy kept whispering accusations so consistently that eventually they sounded familiar. And familiar lies are dangerous, because after hearing them long enough, people begin building their lives around them. That is why every rejection affected you more deeply than others understood. Because beneath the surface, the enemy was attaching identity to disappointment. Not just you failed, but you are a failure. Not just you experienced rejection, but you are unwanted. Not just you went through delay, but you will always remain behind. My beloved child, do you see how subtle this battle became? The enemy was not only attacking your circumstances, it was attacking your self-image. Because if it could convince you that you were small, you would hesitate before entering the doors I prepared for you. If it could convince you that you were unworthy, you would sabotage blessings before fully receiving them. If it could convince you that you were powerless, you would stop resisting the darkness surrounding your life. That is why your confidence became one of the greatest targets in this warfare. I saw the moments you doubted yourself before speaking. I saw how fear entered opportunities before they even began. I saw how quickly you assumed people would leave. I saw how you became overly cautious because disappointment trained your heart to expect pain. And slowly, your spirit began shrinking beneath burdens I never intended for you to carry. But hear me now. You are not the labels attached to your wounds. You are not the shame attached to your past. You are not the fear attached to your failures. You are not the rejection attached to other people's inability to recognize your value. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1 says, I have called you by name. You are mine. Do you understand the power inside those words? I called you by name, not by your mistakes, not by your trauma, not by your financial struggle, not by your disappointments, by name. And when I speak your true identity, every false label must eventually break. My beloved child, there were moments when you quietly accepted treatment far beneath your worth, because deep inside you no longer fully believed you deserved better. You tolerated dishonor. You tolerated emotional neglect. You tolerated relationships that drained your spirit. You tolerated environments that constantly diminished your peace, not because you lacked intelligence, but because wounded identity often settles for survival instead of expecting honor. The enemy knew this. That is why the attacks against your confidence began early, long before you fully recognized your calling, long before you understood your purpose, long before you realized how much influence your future carries. Because darkness always tries to attack identity before destiny fully awakens. Remember this. Before David faced Goliath publicly, he was overlooked privately. Before Joseph reached the palace, he was rejected by his own brothers. Before Moses delivered nations, he doubted his own voice. Before Gideon became mighty, he called himself weak. The enemy always attacks identity first, because identity determines how boldly people walk toward purpose. And my child, your purpose has always frightened darkness. That is why insecurity followed you so persistently. That is why comparison wounded your spirit so deeply. That is why your mind became trapped in cycles of self-condemnation. You kept measuring yourself against people who were never assigned your destiny. You kept assuming your timing should match theirs. You kept believing that because your journey looked slower, your future must be smaller. But I never measure your life according to human timelines. I measure according to eternal purpose, and your purpose has never diminished simply because the process became painful. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. The enemy understood that if you ever fully saw yourself through my eyes, fear would begin losing power over your future. Because people who know who they are walk differently. They pray differently. They endure differently. They stop begging for permission to exist. They stop apologizing for taking up space. They stop shrinking themselves to fit environments that dishonor their spirit. That is why heaven is restoring your identity now. Not just your finances, not just your opportunities, not just your relationships, your identity. Because the blessing I am bringing into your life requires a healed understanding of who you are. I do not want you stepping into your next season, still secretly believing you are unworthy of peace. I do not want you entering breakthrough while emotionally expecting loss. I do not want you receiving abundance while internally preparing for abandonment. Your spirit must become aligned with truth again. And the truth is this: you were never ordinary. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were never unseen. Even during the seasons when people overlooked you, heaven still recognized your name. Even when doors remained closed, your destiny remained protected. Even when fear whispered lies into your thoughts, my hand remained upon your life. My beloved child, there is authority hidden inside the identity the enemy tried to distort. That is why your warfare became so personal, because once you truly understand who you are, generational chains begin breaking. Fear begins losing its grip. Cycles begin collapsing. Confidence begins returning. And the very things that once intimidated you will no longer control your decisions. John 1:12 says, "To all who received him, he gave the right to become children of God." Children, not servants trapped in fear, not abandoned souls wandering without purpose. Children. That means heaven's authority flows through your identity, and darkness knows it. Which is why the battle over your self-worth became so intense. But my child, the season of agreeing with false labels is ending now. I am healing the places where shame lived too long. I am restoring the confidence disappointment tried to steal. I am rebuilding the parts of your identity that rejection wounded. And soon, you will begin seeing yourself differently, not through the eyes of fear, not through the eyes of failure, but through truth. However, there is still something deeper you must understand. Because the enemy did not only attack how you see yourself, it also tried to create repeating cycles designed to keep your bloodline trapped beneath invisible limitations. And in the next part, I will reveal why certain struggles kept repeating through generations, and why you were chosen to become the one who finally ends the cycle forever. My beloved child, I know there is a question that has quietly haunted your spirit for a very long time. Why does it always seem like things fall apart at the last moment? Why do opportunities come close only to suddenly disappear? Why do relationships begin with hope, then collapse into disappointment? Why does breakthrough sometimes feel one step away, yet somehow remain just beyond your reach? You tried to understand it logically. You blamed timing. You blamed yourself. You blamed your decisions. And after enough painful cycles, you started expecting loss before success even had the chance to fully arrive. My child, this pattern wounded your spirit more deeply than people realize. Because repeated disappointment does not only affect circumstances, it changes expectation. It trains the heart to prepare for failure before joy. That is why, even when good things began entering your life, fear immediately followed behind them. You struggled to relax. You struggled to trust peace. You struggled to believe something beautiful could remain without suddenly being taken away again. The enemy used repeated near-breakthrough experiences to exhaust your hope. Because if darkness could convince you that every blessing eventually disappears, you would eventually stop reaching for more. You would settle. You would shrink your dreams. You would stop expecting miracles altogether. And my beloved, there were moments when you came dangerously close to emotional surrender. Not surrendering your love for me, but surrendering your expectation that life could truly change. That is why your prayers became quieter. That is why your dreams became smaller. That is why your excitement faded whenever new opportunities appeared. Part of your spirit whispered, "Don't hope too much. You've been disappointed before. Something will probably go wrong again." My child, that fear was not your true identity. It was the scar left behind by repeated warfare. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. The enemy often attacks people hardest right before breakthrough. Not because the breakthrough disappeared, but because darkness recognizes when transformation is near. That is why your most intense emotional battles often arrived when your future was closest to shifting. Suddenly confusion increased. Suddenly fear intensified. Suddenly relationships became unstable. Suddenly discouragement flooded your thoughts. You thought those moments meant you were moving backward, but many times they were evidence that something significant was approaching. The enemy does not panic over people remaining trapped. It panics over people awakening, and my child, you are awakening now. You are beginning to understand that the warfare surrounding your life was never random. There was strategy behind the discouragement, strategy behind the delay, strategy behind the exhaustion, because your destiny carries more weight than you currently realize. John 10:10 says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly." Notice what the enemy tried to steal first. Not possessions, not opportunities, hope, peace, expectation, identity. Because once those things weaken, people stop fighting for the future heaven prepared for them. That is why so many of your battles targeted your confidence at the very moment breakthrough felt near. The enemy hoped discouragement would make you walk away before your appointed season arrived. But my beloved child, you are still here, and that matters more than you understand. You survived seasons that were designed to emotionally collapse you. You walked through disappointments that should have hardened your heart completely. You experienced betrayals that could have destroyed your ability to trust. Yet, despite everything, your spirit still reaches toward me. That is grace, that is preservation, that is heaven refusing to release your destiny. There were times when you believed the repeated losses meant you were cursed. But hear me carefully now. You are not cursed. You are contested. There is a difference. A cursed person is abandoned by hope. But you have never been abandoned. You have been fought over. Because the enemy recognized potential within you long before you fully recognized it yourself. That is why your path felt unusually difficult. That is why your growth required so much endurance. That is why your victories often came through painful refinement. Because some destinies are born through warfare, and yours is one of them. My beloved child, there were moments when you almost blamed yourself for every closed door. You replayed your mistakes repeatedly inside your mind. You questioned every decision. You wondered whether you somehow ruined your own future permanently. But not every closed door was punishment. Some doors closed because they carried hidden destruction behind them. Some people left because they could not go where I was taking you. Some opportunities disappeared because they were connected to paths that would have wounded your spirit later. You cried over things I was protecting you from, and one day you will understand why certain losses were necessary for your survival. I know that truth is difficult to accept while pain is fresh, because grief naturally focuses on what disappeared. But heaven often sees dangers hidden behind what looked desirable. You only saw the immediate opportunity. I saw the future attached to it. That is why delay became protection in places where immediate answers would have created deeper wounds. My child, I need you to hear this clearly now. You are not doomed to repeat these painful cycles forever. The season of constant emotional collapse is ending. The season of repeated near-breakthrough disappointment is ending. The season of losing peace every time hope appears is ending. Because I am healing the root beneath the pattern. not just the visible symptoms, the root. I am rebuilding your spirit in places where fear once controlled your expectations. I am restoring courage where disappointment created hesitation. I am teaching your heart how to trust peace again. And slowly, quietly, your inner world is changing. Even now, while you listen to my voice, you may not fully feel it yet. But chains are weakening, fear is loosening, hopelessness is losing authority over your future. Because truth is entering places where lies ruled too long. And once truth awakens inside a person, darkness begins losing ground. My beloved child, you were never created to live trapped beneath repeated defeat. You were created to rise. You were created to overcome. You were created to become living proof that cycles can break. But before those cycles fully end, there is another truth you must understand. Because many of the patterns surrounding your life did not begin with you alone. Some of them traveled silently through generations before reaching your hands. Fear, scarcity, emotional brokenness, delayed breakthroughs, invisible limitations. These cycles existed long before you were born. And now heaven is revealing something extraordinary. You were not chosen merely to survive those cycles. You were chosen to end them. And in the next part, I will reveal the hidden battle connected to your bloodline, and why your breakthrough carries the power to transform generations after you. My beloved child, there are battles in your life that did not begin with you. Listen carefully to me now, because what I am about to reveal explains why certain patterns repeated themselves for so many years. Even when you tried with all your strength to break free, you wondered why fear seemed familiar long before you understood where it came from. You wondered why scarcity kept returning no matter how hard people in your family worked. You wondered why emotional pain echoed through generations like an invisible inheritance nobody openly discussed. And sometimes you quietly asked yourself, why does it feel like my family has always struggled in the same areas? My child, some cycles are deeper than human behavior alone. Some wounds travel silently through bloodlines. Fear passed from parent to child. Shame passed from generation to generation. Broken identity, emotional absence, poverty mindsets, addiction, constant instability, delayed breakthroughs, invisible heaviness surrounding entire families for decades. And many people never realize they are carrying inherited spiritual patterns because those struggles become normalized over time. Everyone around them suffers similarly, so they assume it is simply how life is. But my beloved, I never created your bloodline to live trapped beneath invisible chains. I never designed generations to carry the same pain repeatedly. Yet darkness often builds strongholds slowly across families through fear, trauma, broken identity, and spiritual blindness. That is why certain patterns seem to repeat, no matter how much effort was made to escape them. You may have watched people in your family work tirelessly, yet still remain trapped in lack. You may have watched relationships collapse repeatedly despite good intentions. You may have witnessed cycles of emotional pain nobody knew how to heal. And secretly, part of you feared the same future would eventually happen to you. That fear wounded your spirit more deeply than you realized. Because when cycles repeat long enough, people begin believing limitation is destiny. But hear me carefully now, my child. Cycles are not destiny, they are patterns. And patterns can be broken. Galatians 3:13 says, Christ redeemed us from the curse. Redeemed. That means what once held authority no longer has the final word over your future. But the enemy never wanted you to understand that truth, because awareness is dangerous to darkness. The moment someone recognizes that cycles are not permanent, spiritual authority begins awakening. That is why confusion surrounded your life so heavily. The enemy hoped you would spend your entire life blaming yourself for battles connected to generations before you. It wanted you trapped in shame instead of awakening. It wanted you emotionally exhausted instead of spiritually aware. But heaven is opening your eyes now, not to make you afraid, but to help you understand why your journey felt so unusually heavy. My beloved child, have you noticed how different you have always felt from certain patterns around you? Even when you tried fitting into environments that normalized fear, something inside you resisted it. Even when others accepted hopelessness, your spirit quietly longed for freedom. Even when cycles surrounded you, part of your heart kept searching for something higher. That was not accidental, that was calling. Because before you were born, heaven already knew you would become a turning point, a cycle breaker, a spiritual interruption inside your bloodline. That is why the warfare intensified around your identity. Because darkness recognized your potential before you fully recognized it yourself. The enemy understood that if you ever awakened spiritually, entire generational patterns could begin collapsing through your obedience. That is why discouragement followed you so aggressively. That is why confusion targeted your mind so persistently. That is why exhaustion became one of the greatest attacks against your spirit. The enemy hoped you would surrender emotionally before discovering who you truly were. But my child, you survived, and survival was never the final goal. Awakening was. Listen closely now. This next part matters deeply. You are not carrying your family's pain because you were chosen for destruction. You are carrying awareness because you were chosen for transformation. There is a difference. Some people inherit cycles and continue them unconsciously, but others become spiritually awakened enough to confront them. You are becoming one of those people. That is why your soul often feels restless in environments that accept dysfunction as normal. That is why superficial peace never fully satisfied your spirit. That is why you kept searching for deeper healing, even while others settled for temporary survival. Because heaven planted something different inside you. You were never assigned merely to repeat history. You were assigned to rewrite it. Joshua 24:15 says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Do you understand the power hidden in those words? One awakened person can shift the spiritual atmosphere of an entire bloodline. One healed person can interrupt generations of emotional brokenness. One spiritually aware person can begin changing the inheritance future generations receive. And my beloved child, that person may be you. That is why your process became so painful. Because cycle breakers often fight battles previous generations ignored. They confront fears others normalized. They challenge patterns others accepted. They become spiritually awake in places where confusion ruled for years. And that awakening always threatens darkness. My child, there were moments when you felt isolated because your spirit no longer aligned with certain environments around you. You tried explaining your exhaustion. You tried explaining your emotional burden. You tried explaining the heaviness you felt. But many people could not understand because they were only looking at visible circumstances. Meanwhile, your soul was fighting invisible battles connected to generations of pain. But hear me now, you are not alone in this process. I have been walking beside you the entire time, even during the moments when your family wounds felt too heavy to carry, even during the seasons when emotional exhaustion made healing feel impossible, even during the nights when fear whispered that cycles would never truly change. I remained near you, guiding you, protecting you, strengthening you quietly, because I never intended for you to drown beneath inherited pain. I intended for you to rise above it. My beloved child, something is already shifting inside your bloodline because of your obedience. Even now, even before you fully understand it, the moment one person begins choosing healing, spiritual movement begins happening beyond what human eyes can see. Chains begin weakening, fear begins losing authority, old agreements begin collapsing, and generational darkness begins losing ground. That is why your awakening matters so deeply. You are not only fighting for yourself anymore. Your breakthrough carries influence beyond your own life. Your healing carries impact beyond your own emotions. Your obedience carries freedom beyond your own future, and the enemy knows it, which is why the warfare surrounding your life intensified whenever you moved closer to truth. But my beloved, darkness cannot stop what heaven already ordained. The cycles may have lasted many years, but they will not last forever, because I am raising you into spiritual authority now, slowly, deeply, powerfully. And soon, you will begin seeing signs that the limitations surrounding your bloodline are beginning to break. However, before the breakthrough fully manifests, there is something else you must understand. Because many of the delays in your life were not punishment at all. They were preparation for a level of blessing your current understanding could not yet fully carry. And in the next part, I will reveal why I allowed certain delays to continue, and how those painful waiting seasons were secretly protecting your future. My beloved child, I know there were many nights when you questioned my timing. You prayed, you waited, you cried, and after a while, part of your heart quietly began asking, God, why is this taking so long? You tried to stay patient, you tried to remain faithful, but the longer the waiting lasted, the heavier your spirit became, especially when you watched other people move forward while your own life seemed suspended between promise and silence. You wondered why doors opened quickly for them while your breakthrough remained delayed. You wondered whether you had done something wrong, whether perhaps you failed me somehow, whether maybe you simply were not chosen for the same kind of blessing. My beloved child, listen carefully to me now. The delay was never proof of rejection, and it was never punishment. The delay was preparation deeper than you understood at the time, because I see things your human eyes cannot yet fully perceive. You only saw the blessing you were asking for. I saw the person you would become after receiving it, and there were parts of your spirit that still needed healing before the next season could safely rest upon your life. My child, if I had opened certain doors too early, you would have entered them carrying unresolved fear, unhealed wounds, fragile identity, emotional exhaustion, and the very blessing you prayed for could have become the very thing that destroyed your peace. So I slowed the process down, not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I loved you too deeply to release premature blessing into unprepared hands. Listen closely now. This next part matters deeply. Many people ask me for increase while still emotionally trapped in survival mode. They pray for abundance while internally expecting loss. They ask for elevation while secretly believing they are unworthy of it. And when blessing arrives before healing, people often sabotage what heaven intended to establish. That is why your process became longer than expected, because I was not merely building your circumstances. I was rebuilding you, quietly, deeply, patiently. While you focused on the visible doors, I focused on the invisible foundation beneath them. While you asked me to change your external situation, I was transforming your internal world. Because sustainable blessing requires healed identity, and I refuse to place you into a future your wounded spirit is not yet ready to carry. My beloved child, there were moments you believed I was delaying your breakthrough unnecessarily, but what looked like delay was often divine protection. You cried over relationships I prevented from continuing because they carried hidden destruction. You mourned opportunities that disappeared because they would have slowly drained your peace. You begged me to open doors that secretly contained traps your discernment could not yet fully recognize. And when I said not yet, you interpreted it as silence, but heaven was shielding you. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Notice what I asked of you, not panic, not despair. Wait, because waiting with me is never wasted. Even when you cannot see movement, heaven is still working. Even when circumstances appear frozen, spiritual alignment is still unfolding. Even when doors remain closed, I am still preparing your future. My child, some blessings require timing far more precise than human understanding can comprehend. Because your breakthrough does not only involve you, it involves people, places, connections, protection, spiritual readiness, emotional maturity, and unseen battles beyond what your physical eyes can detect. That is why rushing the process could have harmed the very destiny attached to your life. You thought you were only waiting for financial relief, but I was building emotional resilience. You thought you were only praying for opportunity, but I was strengthening discernment. You thought you only needed open doors, but I knew you first needed inner healing strong enough to sustain what was coming next. My beloved child, there were hidden weaknesses inside your spirit that delay exposed. Fear of abandonment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of losing what you finally receive. And painful as it was, those fears had to surface before true freedom could fully enter your life. Because hidden wounds eventually sabotage visible blessings. I know the waiting exhausted you. I know there were moments you felt forgotten. Moments when hope became difficult to maintain. Moments when your prayers sounded quieter because disappointment made expectation painful. But even during the silence, I was never absent. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you." I was strengthening you during the delay, even when you misunderstood the process, even when frustration clouded your perspective, even when exhaustion made trusting difficult. My hand never left your life. My child, some of the strongest spiritual growth inside you happened during seasons you thought were unproductive. You learned endurance. You learned discernment. You learned how to survive emotionally difficult seasons without completely losing faith. You learned how to hear my voice more clearly when external certainty disappeared. And slowly, quietly, your spirit became stronger than it was before the waiting began. That strength matters more than you realize, because the next season of your life will require a version of you capable of carrying blessing without becoming consumed by fear, capable of handling increase without losing peace, capable of receiving favor without returning to old cycles of insecurity. That is why the process could not be rushed. My beloved child, the enemy wanted the delay to convince you that nothing was happening. But heaven was accomplishing more during the silence than you could see. People were being repositioned, dangerous paths were being removed, wrong connections were falling away, hidden wounds were surfacing for healing, and spiritual maturity was quietly forming inside you. One day you will look back and realize the waiting season protected you from becoming emotionally destroyed by blessings you were not yet ready to steward. And suddenly, what once felt cruel will begin making sense. Listen carefully now. This next truth is important. Delay does not mean denial, and silence does not mean abandonment. Some of my greatest works happen invisibly before they ever become visible. Seeds remain hidden underground long before harvest appears above the surface. And your breakthrough has been developing beneath the surface for far longer than you realize. That is why darkness fought so aggressively to make you quit during the process. Because the enemy knew something you did not fully understand yet. Your appointed season was still coming. And if you survived the preparation, the breakthrough would eventually arrive carrying greater stability than anything rushed prematurely. My beloved child, you are closer than you think. Closer to healing, closer to freedom, closer to restoration, closer to breakthrough. Even if your emotions have not fully caught up to that truth yet, something is already shifting quietly, deeply, powerfully. And soon, the same delay that once confused you will become part of the testimony that strengthens others. But before the breakthrough fully manifests, there is another truth I must reveal to you. Because some doors in your life did not remain closed because you failed. They remained closed because I was protecting you from hidden destruction you could not yet see. And in the next part, I will reveal the dangerous things hidden behind certain doors I intentionally refuse to open.